Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your post-Thanksgiving Sunday evening with us. I'm sure everybody is probably ready to get started with for their week. It's been I know for me, it's been a long weekend, and I've just kind of been just relaxing and enjoying some family time. So very relaxed and ready to go. So as I said, my name is Michelle Schaefer. I'm the Senior Consultant in Ambit Energy. Thank you again so much for getting on this great call to prepare your upcoming Ambit week. We believe that the silver bullet for this business is to have structure in your week where you spend 35 to 40 minutes a day doing the simple things we need to do. So have your top 10 names ready, your calendars open, a pen and paper in hand so you can prepare your week right along with Richard and his victims. Also, make sure you spread the word to your team and your other teams to have them join us on this call. We want to share it with everyone. Make sure that everyone is prepared for their week. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our host. If you're not familiar with this gentleman, he's an executive consultant in our business. He actually owns several businesses outside of his Ambit business. He is a restaurateur, has several Dickey's barbecue restaurants here in the great state of Texas. He is also a musician. He has a music box, beautiful music box business. He's had several businesses in his in his career. One he sold for several $1 million several years ago. So he's very well-versed in business, very creative, out-of-the-box kind of thinker. He's brought us these fantastic things like the Purge Call and 3x4, and just a dear friend and mentor of mine. Without further ado, Mr. Richard Laidler.
Yes, there you are. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Fantastic. What's this about therapy? Aren't you feeling very well?
You know, I just have a little, I'm up here in New York State, spending some time with my family, and I think as soon as I hit that cold air into my lungs, they weren't very happy about it.
I know what it is. It's because you're right near your mum, and as soon as you see your mum, you think, oh, I just want to wrap up in bed and have my mum take care of me.
Yeah, that's what it is, for sure, yeah.
Well, I hope you feel better. That's pretty rotten. We're having great weather down here. I didn't see much of today. I've been stuck in the office most of today, but it's been in the kind of like 50s and low 60s today, so it's been quite comfortable down here, not to rub it in at all, but hopefully you get better up there. I know you've got some stuff going on, and thoughts and wishes are with you for your family up there, with your dad, with his surgery that he's going to be going through. We all wish you the best for that, of course. But for those of you who are on the call, welcome. Welcome to the call. Thank you for getting on the call on this, as Michelle said, post-Thanksgiving weekend. And also not only thank you, but congratulate yourself for taking an hour out to prepare your week. It's the best investment you could do. This 1 hour, putting to one side, will make sure that your week runs smoothly. It will make sure you get just the little things you need to do to run our Ambit business. So give yourselves a pat on the back, a congratulatory pat on the back, and say, well done, us. And with that, I'm just going to take a sip of my real cup of tea. Hold on one second. Oh, it's great being English. We make a nice cup of tea. And you know what? No matter what problem there is in the world, nothing like a nice cup of tea fixes it. So with that being said, the purpose of tonight's call is the Sunday Purge Call. Some of you will know about it. I can see on the board here. We've got a lot of people. I'm very surprised, actually. We've got a lot of people on the call tonight. I'm very proud of you all for taking the time out of a Thanksgiving weekend. I kind of asked Michelle to remind everyone that I will be recording it just in case people won't be able to get on the call tonight. But it looks like most of the regulars are here, as well as some new callers. So those of you who are regular, you know how everything works. But for those of you who are brand new, the purpose of this call is to make sure we do just the little things that we need to do in our Ambit business. Network marketing has been around for over 100 years. And for the longest time, people have been always thinking there's two sides to the business. There's the mechanics side, and then there's the mental side of the business. And that's absolutely true. But unfortunately, I personally think that there's a third element that without it is missing. And there's the mechanics, you've got the mental game, but I believe that we have to put structure back in to the business, because many of us are not used to running our own business. We're not used to being motivated. And so if we don't have the structure of school or structure of college or structure of a job to make sure we do what we're supposed to do, we just kind of won't do it. And so that's why we put the Sunday Purge Call together. And it's basically, as I say, just to give you a structure in your week. It's nothing you don't already know. It revolves around your calendar and just setting the time aside that you need to do your business. Basically, what we do is everything is based around the written list. Sounds very boring, but I promise you it's not. It's the inventory for your business. Like with our restaurants, the inventory for our business is our food. If we don't have any food, we can't sell any food to clients and to customers. Same for us. If we don't have anybody we can share the business to, we won't have a business either. So we put a written list together, and that's what kind of is the start to the structure. We, as I say, we put that written list together. We use memory joggers. You can use the yellow pages if those things even exist anymore, but just something that prompts you. Sometimes people go, well, I don't know anybody. They get to about 20 people and they can't think of anybody else. But I promise you just open up yellow pages and go to all the various sections. You know, you've got plumbers, you've got bankers, you've got accountants, you've got pest control, and all of a sudden you start thinking of things. Then you see BMW dealerships, and you think, well, you know, who do I know in a BMW dealership? Well, think a little differently. Who do I know who owns a BMW? Who do I know who owns a Toyota? Who do I know, et cetera, et cetera? And all of a sudden you can very much have a list of at least 200 names, and that's what we're aiming to do. Don't worry, that sounds daunting, I know. Don't think you've got to do it overnight, but you definitely want to be getting towards 100 names as soon as you can, because what we then do with that written list is we score it. I know a lot of the leaders like to write their written list down, and I do believe that, you know, when you write something down with your hands, like if you're taking notes in a training, I think that there is a connection, some kind of connectivity that goes on. But when it comes to your written list, the convenience of something like Excel, or for those of you who are Mac users, as Numbers, which is the Mac equivalent, you can put your list in an Excel spreadsheet. But then what you can do is, what we do on this call is we score our list using the ERICA system. We call it ERICA. It's ERICA, an acronym for entrepreneurship, resources, influence, C for city, i.e. are they local or not, and A for attitude. And then we give them a score from 1 to 3, 3 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. And then you can score your list. And once you've done that, of course, with it being in Excel, you can just hit the column that the total is on, and it will sort them in order. And what it'll do is all the high-scoring people will go to the top, and the lower-scoring people will go to the bottom. So the cream rises to the top. So the great thing about that is sometimes when you're sitting there thinking, who shall I call? You'll go for the people you think who are going to be the most receptive or the nicest to you, or the ones who need the business more than anybody else. And that's not necessarily the first person you should be calling. The first people you should be calling are going to be the people who are best at the business. And some of those are people you might be frightened to call. And so being forced to call these people because they rise to the top of the list is great. So we've written our list. We've got them all scored with ERICA, and then what we do on Sundays, which we're going to do on this call right now with my willing victim, we're going to pull down the top 10 names from that list. And then with my victim, and what you'll do with your accountability partner, and everybody on this call really should have someone to work with. It'll really help you, not only to have a second opinion on something, but also to make sure you get stuff done. It's kind of like we need to replace that boss. You know, as I said, a lot of us are not used to having the no discipline of a business. You know, in a job, you have discipline. You got to turn up at 9, you're going to leave at 5, and you get a lunch in the middle. But when it's your own business sitting at home, you can do it whenever you like, and so it's also easy not to do it whenever you like as well. So the accountability partner will keep you on track with regard to that, and you work with your accountability partner to put the perfect invitations together for those top 10 people. So written list, ERICA system, top 10 names, and then we're going to give them an invite, which again I'll go through on this call today with my victim. Once we've got those invites together, then you have your week there in front of you on a piece of paper. You can go, aha, this is my week. You no longer will you be thinking, what am I going to do this week? It'll be there. There are the 10 names, and there are the perfect invites. Then what you're going to do is just open your calendar and actually allocate the time. Don't look at it and look for gaps. well, actually do look for gaps, but once you get the gaps, fill them with I'm going to make a call at this time. 10 o'clock in the morning for a tea break, or whatever you Americans do, a coffee break you'll have over here. But, some people will do it on the drive into work. Some people will do it on a break. Some people will do it at lunchtime, an afternoon break or whatever, or the drive home. We're only talking about 2 calls a day. Remember, top 10 names, 2 calls a day, or 2 invites a day. So 2 a day for 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's 10 calls. That's your week done. And the great thing about that is it sets 2 goals. It sets the minimum you need to do, but it also says that that's what I need to do for the week. Now, you can do more. I know there are people, I've heard people on this call, I can hear some names as they're coming on. I know some of you will do more than 2 calls a day, and that's fine. But if you set yourself a target of 2 invites a day for 5 days, the great thing about that is once you've done them, you can relax and you can actually switch off and not have that constant feeling in your gut. I really should be doing something with my Ambit business. I really should be doing something with my Ambit business. And that's the feeling I used to have when I didn't have structure. When I first got going in this business, I would be doing my work in the restaurants or whatever, but there's always this nagging feeling that I should be doing something. But if you've got it actually planned and organized on Sunday and allocated time in your week, you can relax. And that's something that I didn't realize when we put this plan together, but it's something that's really come out as we've worked with the victims. So the written list, the Erica system. If you're not sure how to score it on the Erica system, go to EC Riders, scroll back, and you'll see one of our team calls actually does some training on how to score your team. It's very quick, very easy, and trust me, very well worthwhile doing. So written list, Erica system. Once we've got that done, we pull the top 10 names down. We allocate invites for those top 10 people. We put 2 invites in Monday, 2 invites in Tuesday, all the way through to Friday. And then the last thing is to make sure we have an accountability call every day around 5 or 6 o'clock after you've done your 2 invites with your accountability partner. And that's probably the most important thing that we're doing. Is that accountability call. Some people could think, oh, I've got to be a brilliant inviter, or I've got to have the best prepared list, or I've got to do this. You know what? You can even do this business kind of averagely well, kind of bad. You can even have an invite, which is, hey, bud, can you do me a favor? Take a look at this video. I'd love to know what you think. Thanks very much. You could even have an invite as bad as that. If you were doing 2 of those invites a day, you'll find 3 people who will want to do this business with you. And if you remember the business presentation, all you need is 3 people who are going to work this business with you who can get 2 or 3 customers to get themselves qualified. 2 for inside Texas, 3 for outside Texas. You've seen the business presentation, 3 who get 3, who get 3, who get 3, all the way down to 7 levels, and just qualify. All they do is qualify with 2 or 3 customers. That's around $11,000 in residual income every month, month after month, when your customers pay their bills. And I would imagine that that's enough for most of the people on this call. So with that being said, that's the kind of overview of what this call is all about. I do go into quite a lot of detail because there are a lot of new people on this call. So those of you who are used to it, thank you for your patience and thank you for bearing with me on that. But there's nothing like actually getting into the meat of what we're going to do. So I'm going to bring on our willing victim this week. The purpose, as I say, of this call is you guys all out there are voyeurs, or whatever the listening version of voyeurs is. You listen in to me coaching someone in the business, pulling down the top 10 names, creating the invites, and then coaching them during the week with those accountability calls I was talking about. So this call is being recorded, but every one of the accountability calls, Monday through Friday, will be recorded and posted onto the EC Riders Facebook page as well. And some of the best training is actually on those calls because they're it's real activity alongside a real invite, and good news and bad news. Everything is on that call. We do not edit them. If, whether it's good, bad, ugly, indifferent, or whatever, we want it on that call because that's the reality of what this business is all about. So I'm going to be working with my willing victim today. You guys are going to be listening, but please have your calendars open, have your notepads open, as Michelle was saying, and do this with me. If you hear an invite that I'm working with my victim that's the same as an invite for one of your guys, maybe it's a brother-in-law, maybe it's a doctor, maybe it's a plumber, maybe it's an old school friend you haven't seen for 20 years. then you can work that invite, copy the same invite, obviously adjust the information like names and this type of thing, but just do the work with us and you'll be successful. For those of you who are accountability partners on either side, whether you are the accountability who's answering to someone else or the accountability who's the person who's receiving those calls, please be accountable. Make sure you are there and available for those calls because it is the key to what we do. So that being said, I'm going to bring on my willing victim, who happens to be a very good personal friend of mine. We work together a lot down here in the Dallas area. And in fact, that being said, I would love to work with someone up in the Northeast or Illinois. I'd love to work with someone up there at some point. So if you're interested, by all means, drop me a text on 214-766-4613. Again, 214-766-4613, and let me know, and I'd love to have you on the call, and it doesn't matter. I love to be thrown in the deep end with all sorts of different challenges and see how we deal with them. But this particular gentleman, as I say, we work very closely inside and outside the Ambit business. He's a senior consultant in the business. He's extremely vocal. A lot of people know him down here. He's one of the best presenters of the business presentation. No one does the money like this man. This man knows how to segue. I'm telling you, he does a fantastic job of the money and the business presentation, as well as the company, but particularly the money. So I'm very happy to bring this gentleman onto the call because I know he's also going to challenge me. Senior consultant Paul Mitchell. Are you there, Paul?
I am, Richard. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you perfectly well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Hang on just 1 second. I got my beverage to get started here. Delicious. All right.
I'm sure it wasn't a proper English cup of tea, though, was it? What was it?
Oh, it's good. It's good American Coke.
Okay. All right then. Well, moving on. Okay, well, first of all, a lot of people will know who you are on the call, and a lot won't. We've got people from California, Illinois, as well as many of the states up there in the Northeast who won't know who you are. So why don't you just spend a minute, and let's, keep it brief if we can, a minute, and just kind of, what kind of age group you're in, what you do for a living, a little bit about your family, and why you're doing your Ambit business, and just to kind of let us know who you are.
Sure thing. First, a quick shout out to my team members. I heard check in on the call. I heard Alex from Plano, and I heard EC Larry Leafblad calling in from the Chicago area. So great to have you guys on. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Paul Mitchell. I'm a senior consultant. My wife Carrie and I live in Plano, Texas, with our 5 beautiful children, aged 15, 13, 11, 7, and 5. And my wife is a stay-at-home mom, and to our 2 youngest, a homeschooling mom. And if anybody with kids knows that. When you've got a family of 7 to feed, house, clothe, transport, educate, entertain, and all the rest, any single paycheck is going to be strained by that responsibility. And so, when the idea of having, money for vacations is laughable, the idea of having money for college is terrifying, and the idea of having money for medical emergencies is just downright worrisome. It's hard to put anything by. So when I saw the Ambit opportunity 4 years ago, I realized the truth of that line in the business presentation, you have the power in your hands. And I realized at that point that I was responsible now. I couldn't blame anything else. I had the ability to change my situation. And all I had to do was be coachable and take action and never quit. Yeah. So that's how I got into it, and that's what I'm working on.
Perfect. And of all people I know, I mean, you're very skilled in the Ambit business already, but you continue to be very, very coachable. And that was very much the reason why, I wanted you to be a victim on the call, because first of all, I know you're very skilled and you'll be able to help, with the coaching on the call. But the second, on the other hand, you're also very coachable. If there's something that's not right or whatever, you're quite willing to, to try whatever we come up with and to work it out. And judging by, I can't imagine, having 5 kids all under adult age, as you say, you just got, you've quit, whatever the word is for the 5 versions of triple quintessential. I don't know what that is. Your chances of someone getting sick at some point, or someone, obviously needing to go to college. I'm sure you'll have time when there are more than one of the kids at college at the same time. So, we've definitely got to get you some money in. But let's dive straight in, so we have as much time as we can to get him as many invites as we can done. So first of all, Paul, my first question, as always, is do you have a written list?
Yes, of course.
Fantastic. Now, I never embarrass anybody and ask them how many are on the written list, but I have spoken to people when I'm not on the call, and they've said their written list is 15 people. Paul, I know yours is vastly bigger than that, but a written list is not 10 to 15 people. It is 100 people or more. So that's great. And my next question is, have you scored that list using the Erica system?
Yes, I have.
Fantastic. All right. And I'm assuming you pulled down the top 10 names from that list of yours?
Yes, I have them in front of me.
All right, so if you could do me a favor, could you read me the 10 names, not so fast that I can't write them down, but please only give me the first name, not the last name, because sometimes there's some confusion, people listening on the call who's saying, hi, I know a Steve Jones. I'm going to give him a call real quick before Paul does. We obviously want to avoid that. So let's make sure that we just use the first names for the moment. If you can give me those top 10 names, that'd be great, please, Paul.
Sure thing. The first one is Matthew.
Okay, got it.
Dirk.
Yep.
Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Truly.
Julie.
Truly.
Truly. As in Truly Scrumptious from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
That's right.
I love it. Some of you young folks won't have heard of that movie, but it's one of the best movies ever. Although that child catcher used to scare the crap out of me when I was just a little kid. And you're laughing because you can relate. That thing
absolutely.
was scary.
I saw that movie in the theaters when I was a kid, and now I've shown it to my kids. So absolutely, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got Matthew, Dirk, Elizabeth, Paul, Truly,
and then the next name, just to keep things clear, is Julie.
Okay. Okay.
Then I have Robert.
Got it.
Siobhan.
How do you spell that?
Siobhan. It's an Irish name.
Right.
John.
2 more. Yeah.
And I've got Bob and Sheila.
Bob and Sheila, is that a couple?
That's a couple.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, let's dive straight on in. Tell me a little bit about Matthew.
Well, as you know, I started a new job. I got laid off in July. I started a new job right after Ambition, and Matthew is one of the partners in the company that hired me. Okay. He's close to my age, or maybe a little younger. He's got a new family. He's got his wife, and he and his wife have 2 small daughters. I think both adopted. And he's a partner in the company that hired me. He's a sweetheart of a guy. He's real laid back, and frankly, I was remembering EC Doug Parker's story about how he got into Ambit when he owns his own company, and one of his employees walked into his office and said, "Hey, boss, I'm doing this thing on the side to make extra money." And the guy didn't get very far into his invitation when Doug, who already knew about Ambit, said, "Hey, is this Ambit Energy? Sign me up. I'm in." Came to find out later, Doug had 4 other employees who were Ambit consultants who never knocked on his door.
Right.
So I want to be the first to knock on Matthew's door.
And good for you. Yeah, very often people are thinking, I can't ask the boss for a couple of reasons. First of all, is the boss going to feel threatened because I'm doing my own thing? And secondly, because it's usually on their chicken list and probably at the top of their chicken list. So just to quickly summarize how we do an invite for those of you who are, again, brand new, those of you who are used to this call, bear with me or be reminded what I'm telling you about. We have 5 kind of guidelines to an invite. First one is always to be in a hurry. Second one is to use your why, because we want people listening with their heart and not their ears. If you're able to include their why as well, then that's great as well. Then we have a hook, why you're excited about the business. This is going to get my college kids, my kids' college fund paid for, or this is going to get me fully funded for my retirement, whatever the hook is. There's always a takeaway. We love the takeaway. listen, this may or may not be up your street or your cup of tea or whatever you want to say, but I just want to take you to take a look. And then on the fifth thing is to be intentional about setting the date. And that was something that I thought wasn't going to be, I wouldn't need to train much on, but it's probably the thing we need to train the most on. If for any reason, the only exceptions to that is if we don't know the people very well and our why may or may not be relevant. In those cases, we'll use an opportunity to compliment them or to ask them for an opinion. And we'll cover that, I'm sure, in some of the invites that we're doing. So with this first one, for me, it's screening the approach that I would take. But do you have any kind of thoughts on what type of approach you'd like to take, Paul?
Oh, I thought I'd approach it emphasizing the opportunity for residual income. The company is an IT company. So we do a job, we work an hour, we bill the hour, that transaction's over. And then I can point out that he's got a little better deal because I work an hour, he bills the hour, and he gets some of the money. But still, right, the transaction's over. Wouldn't he like to have an opportunity to do something and continue to get paid for it?
Right. In fact, this has come up with Christy and a couple of other of my victims where when we've been talking to business owners, very often business owners may be a little closed, and you just got to push the door a little bit to open it just a little bit for them to be listening, because business owners are great, because when they see it, they really see it. But very often speaking to business owners, sometimes it's sometimes interesting to ask the question, the two businesses you own, are either of them residual based? Which is always a good question. Like, for example, in your IT business, as you say, you're trading hours for money with your clients. In our restaurant, we trade food for money. We don't, once they've eaten the food, we don't get paid every time they think about the food again afterwards or anything. It's a one transaction deal done. So first of all, absolutely ask them if it's a residual deal, but also the other R word, is it recession proof? Sometimes that's very an interesting question for business owners is, restaurants, their business goes down, depending on the restaurant. If it's a cheaper restaurant, it's not so much. But the revenue goes down when there's a bad economy. And I would imagine the same thing for the IT industry. If people are going to be more careful with their money, the IT industry will struggle as well. So you've got both residual and the fact that it's recession proof as an opportunity to show this guy the business. So absolutely, I would agree with that. My other question is you're going to go in for a direct approach to say, hey, Matthew, why don't you take a look at this business? Because it's, your current business doesn't have any residual element to it, and it's probably not recession proof. Are you going to be going in direct like that?
I was thinking about that, yes.
Another alternative could be to ask for an opinion. With business owners, sometimes it could be regarded as a chicken's way out, but it doesn't matter, because the purpose of these invites is just to get them to look, because the right person, when they're looking, will see it. The wrong person, no matter who they are or how you present it, won't see it. And so we're going to, whatever methods we need, whatever methods will increase our chance of somebody looking, is the better option. So it's not necessarily how smooth the invite is or how clever the invite is. It's how much more of a chance have you got that they're going to look because of the invite that you do. So you've got a couple of approaches, I think, Paul. You're very self-confident anyway, and you're very well postured. So I think a direct approach could certainly be an option for you. And if you came to me, I'm a business owner, you said, hey, Richard, I know you're a business owner, and I know most business owners I know are always open for opportunities. Listen, I'm in a little bit of a hurry right now, but I started a business alongside what I'm doing with you guys. It's certainly not going to take me away from this job, but it's a plan B alongside it. I've got 5 kids. I've got to make sure that I can get them through college. I've got daughters who are going to be getting married. I've got to make sure I'm making enough money. So I started a new business. And as a business owner, I want you to take a look at it for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'd love your opinion. And I'd like you to know what I'm doing, just out of full transparency, because obviously you're my boss as well. But secondly, this business is both recession proof and has a 50%. 50% of the business is residual based. And I know as business owners, they're usually very interested to see that. So I wanted to find some time when we could get together. I know we finish around 5:30. There's a Starbucks around the corner here, or we can meet in the conference room. I'd love to show you what I'm doing. So you could go for that kind of approach. Does that feel comfortable for you? Did you have a different approach you thought about, Paul?
No, that's very much the approach I want to take, especially with this particular person, because I'm going to have an ongoing relationship with them. I've had some success with the asking for an opinion approach, but I had somebody accuse me of, you don't really want my opinion. You want me to get in this business. And then I had somebody else give me his opinion, and he didn't like the business. And honestly, I didn't really care about his opinion at that point. But those are people I wasn't going to have close ongoing relationships with. And so I feel like it's a little more honest to make the direct approach. And I think that's important with somebody that I'm still going to be seeing in the office pretty much every day.
I think that's actually a very, very good point. With those other two folks, I don't care what their opinion was afterwards. Again, the purpose of the invite is for them to get a look. They're going to have an opinion after that. They either like it, they don't like it, they think you're, asking for an opinion. No, you really want me to get started. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They've already looked at it. So, but I think in this particular case, bearing in mind you do have that ongoing relationship, I think it's a respect thing. I agree with you. I would, you can certainly have your opinion in there. But I think if when we get into the reason why, so the invite, listen, what I'm in a little bit of a hurry right now. But I wanted to chat to you about something. As you know, I've got 5 kids. Whatever your why is going to be, but I'm going to use one of your whys. I've got 5 kids that I've got to make sure that I can take care of. They're all under adult age right now, so I've got all the expenses ahead of me. And so, my wife and I had to start a project that would give us additional income over and above the work that I have here. Trust me, it's not instead of what I'm doing here. It's absolutely alongside. And it's going to make sure that I have all of my kids through college with everything paid for. And the weddings that I've got to pay for, and they're going to be covered as well. So I'm really excited about the business. But the reason why I'm talking to you, Matthew, is twofold. First of all, obviously, you're a very successful businessman. You've had a lot of success in business, and I respect your opinion. I'd love you to look at it and see what you think and any advice you can help me with there, and certainly any introductions. But secondly, and I want to be honest with you, Matthew, secondly, I as a business owner, I know that you would be interested in looking at what I'm doing because it's both residual based and it's recession proof. And I know the IT industry is up and down when there's a bad economy. So we can meet in the boardroom and then go on to setting the time. So I would do it that way. If that works for you as well, Paul.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's very honest, and I think that's a very good point. If you are speaking to people at work and you're going to have an ongoing relationship, you don't want to be labeled as that guy at work. So exactly. I think that's very astute of you, and to see that. So, okay, so that's Matthew sorted out. I'm going to be very interested to hear how you get on with him. Let's have a look at Dirk.
All right, give me 1 second.
I know you got some kind of technology going on over there, so I'm
I've
sure
got
you're
some
punching
technology going on here. Yeah.
With you being in the IT industry, I know you've got something going on back there, so good for you. So I'm glad you're taking the notes.
Okay, so Dirk, I
yes.
have not been in touch with Dirk for about 6 years, but he is a together guy. He was running for Congress at the same time I was running for state representative up in Illinois. He didn't win his primary, and I didn't win mine, and we went our separate ways. But we've stayed in touch on LinkedIn, and so I see all the stuff he's doing. He's very active. He's very entrepreneurial. He seems to be some sort of motivational speaker and writer. And so I'm thinking that this would be somebody who, if he saw this business and got it, could be a real powerhouse. And so I've already reached out to him to get his phone number because I don't have his phone number. And that's a problem with several of the people I've got. Since I've been in Ambit for 4 years, I've burned through a whole lot of my warm market. And so I'm going to my cold market. I'm going to my Facebook friends list. I'm going to my LinkedIn connections list to find some people that I need to be talking to. And so this person is somebody that I think that if he hasn't seen this business before, could be a really great possibility. So
where's he based?
Chicago.
You've got a few of your team up in Chicago, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about how to approach him?
I'm thinking I want the opinion approach. Hey, Dirk, I see you've been doing all this stuff, and I'd really love to get your opinion of this thing that I'm doing to make some extra money, and then approach it from there.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about this one, and this is probably a two-way thing on the best way to do this. If he was local, I would do a two-stage process. I would just catch up. I know Dana is a big fan of this. We kind of introduced this to him when he was the victim on the call, and now he's had a few of his calls where he hasn't seen them for a long time. Got together for a meeting first, not disingenuous, but a real meeting, get together, catch up, see how everything's going, and listening for pain. And then based upon that meeting and upon any pain or anything he learned from that meeting, he would find an opportunity to invite them for a second meeting. And bearing in mind, we're only looking for, we're not a numbers game people here. We're some people run their Ambit business, but getting the numbers. We don't do that. We're very much into building the right three people and putting them into this process and taking care of every single one of them. And so a two-stage approach would work for that. But with this gentleman being up in Chicago, I guess you could do kind of a telephone thing. I don't know if that would be weird or awkward. I don't know how well you know this guy, where you could just give him a call and say, hey, I wanted to, catch up and see how you're doing. I don't know. It feels kind of weird on that one. Have you got any thoughts on that one?
I thought I'd just be very straightforward. Hey, Dirk, Paul Mitchell. I hope you remember me. I see on LinkedIn you're doing a whole lot of different stuff, and I brush up in advance about what he's doing, read some of the articles he's posting and so forth, and then to jump into I have a lot of respect for you, Dirk. The way you ran your campaign was completely above board, and everybody had a lot of respect for that. And I see everything you're doing in business now, and I'd really like to show you what I'm doing and get your take on it. See what you think. See what direction you think I should take with this.
Okay, and I agree with that. And I think the fact that I was feeling uncomfortable with him being in Chicago on an initial telephone call is speaking volumes to me. It's saying that is not the approach to go. And so I would be the same with you. Well, don't forget, Paul, first of all, make sure you're in a hurry so that he doesn't drag you into a presentation on the call. So again, for those of you who are on the call who are brand new, the reason why we're in a hurry is so that if someone says to you, hey, what is it? What is it you're doing? Then if you're in a hurry, you can say, well, listen, I'm literally just about to go back into the office. I'm just about to get on a conference call. I'm just about to pick the kids up out of school. I haven't got time to go into it right now, which is why I wanted to make sure I can get an appointment with you. So make sure you're in a hurry. I think I didn't hear you mention much about your why. Again, this is kind of depending on how well he knows you. If he knows you well enough to know you've got 5 kids and stuff, then I would bring up my why and say, hey, Dirk, I hope you remember me. I haven't spoken to you for the longest time, but I'm in a little bit of a hurry right now. I've got to go back into a meeting at work, but I've been meaning to give you a call for the last week or so. As you remember, I've got 5 kids. Again, I don't know if he knows you have 5 kids, but I would maybe state your why you started this business project, and that it's working really well for you down here, but it's also up in the Chicago area as well. And then say to him, the reason why I wanted to talk to you was twofold. First of all, you're very, as a politician, you're obviously very well connected. And as in any business, we want to make sure that we network well. And I know you'd be able to introduce me to a few people. But secondly, I'd really appreciate, I'd like you to take a look at this. I don't know if you want to be super direct and say, as this may be something for you, that gap since you've seen him is the issue. But to ask for an opinion, which is right. So you're asking for the connectivity through the networking, but then asking for an opinion, and then close him down for a time to be able to have a conversation on the phone and do a video presentation when you're going to be by a computer type of close. So Yeah, I think I agree with you. I've also got a question that Javier has just asked. He was saying, is asking for an opinion, is it better asking for an opinion or asking for feedback? And that's a good question. What are your thoughts on that, Paul? Do you think you should ask for an opinion or ask for some feedback?
In this case, I was thinking of saying something along the lines of, I'm interested to have you take a look at it and tell me what you think, or what direction you think I should take with it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I
that's
like that.
sufficiently vague that I think it makes him start. I think he'll put his own interpretation on that, and it begins to sound like I'm asking for advice. And frankly, I think most people love to be asked for advice.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's actually a very good approach on that. And so, Paul, make sure you go back and listen to this recording too, because there's been a lot of words we've mentioned on this, so we've got to tie down that invite. But also for you, Javier, I think opinion and feedback very often, if I'm talking to a business owner, someone above, an opinion is respectful. And this is just an opinion. This is my opinion. It makes someone feel special if I'm going to ask them their opinion. I'd really appreciate your opinion on what I'm doing and any thoughts and advice. Feedback feels a little bit more familiar, and this is just a gut feeling. Like with you, Paul, you and Dirk are of equal status. You're both. You're both, I would imagine, a similar age. He's run for office. You've run for office. There's an equality in what you're doing there. So asking him for some, his thoughts on a direction you should take, and certainly some connections. Again, him being a politician, he understands about networking. So yeah, I think asking for his thoughts on direction you should go in the business is absolutely the same as feedback. And what I recognize, Javier, there is a difference between asking for an opinion and feedback. And I think opinion is when you're asking up, like I would be asking my dad's friend for an opinion, but I'd be asking for a colleague for feedback. That's just a personal gut feel. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong there, but that's how it feels to me. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Paul.
No, I agree with you.
Okay, cool. All right, so you've gone a lot into Dirk there, because I think that's kind of important as to how to do that, because we've got distance, we've got 6 years since you've seen him, so the invite has got to be right. So you're going to be in a hurry. I would definitely express your why and how well things are going for you down here. So there's being in a hurry, your why, and the hook. Then say the reason why you want to talk to him is because you, as in any business, you want to create networking. The business is growing very well up in the Illinois area, and you would appreciate any connections that he could make for you. And then asking for his feedback on directions and this type of thing. Now, when you're asking for opinion or feedback, then it's not necessarily relevant to say it may or may not be your cup of tea. The takeaway, the number 4 item of what we do here. And I think we did miss out on Matthew, by the way. We need to make sure that we do take it away from him in the invite with Matthew, your prior invite. But with this guy, I'm not sure that the takeaway is that relevant, because you're actually not saying to him, I want you to join the business. So, but then I would be very, make sure you set a time when he watches the video, and I call it a visual presentation, by the way. I don't call it a website, because if you call it a visual presentation, people won't ask you, oh, just send me the link, because they don't know what a visual presentation is. Whereas if you say, I'm going to send you a link to my website, they'll say, oh, just send me the link ahead of time. It just avoids that, because you don't want to send them the link ahead of time. You want to make sure you set an appointment when I can give you the visual presentation.
Absolutely.
That's kind of a nice way.
I've totally lost count of how many times I've been burned going wrong on that.
Yeah. So wording there is kind of useful. You're talking about a visual presentation rather than a website link, because it just avoids people asking for the because when someone says, oh, just send me the link, I'll have a look, and you say no, it's weird. So just use some wording to help avoid doing that. So okay, well let's move on. Did you have any other questions on that, Paul? I think we kind of
no, I'm pretty happy with that.
Spat it out. Yeah, cool. All right, let's talk about Elizabeth.
Okay. Elizabeth is a very old friend of mine, multiple decades. She and her husband live down in Round Rock on the north side of Austin. Frankly, I never contacted her because I didn't realize until recently that that's one of our service areas. I didn't realize we went that far south. Last week when I went down to my in-laws in the San Antonio area for Thanksgiving, I had Wednesday off, so I went down Tuesday evening, and I stopped off in Round Rock on my way down to San Antonio and attended Bear Gordon's business presentation that he does every Tuesday night in Round Rock. And so I realized that I've got a whole lot of people who are 15 or 20 minutes drive from here, and this is reachable for me after work if I feel like stretching. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking if I would start reaching out to some of my friends in the Austin area. And when I rated my list, Elizabeth came up on the top of that group.
Well, what's immediately coming to thought on that, to my mind on that is spearheading growth down in the Austin area. I wonder if again, did you have any feel that you wanted to? How long has it been since you spoke to Elizabeth, by the way?
I don't think I've seen her in person for about a year, but we communicate online periodically.
Okay. Yeah, I think it might be interesting to use the approach of the spearheading the growth down in the Austin and surrounding areas there, where you could talk about, say, hey Elizabeth, this is Paul. Listen, I've been meaning to give you a call this week. I've got to get back into a conference with my boss, so I haven't got much time, but I've been meaning to give you a call. As you know, my wife and I, we're in our 50s and we've got, our 5 kids, we're older parents, and we've got to make sure that, not only all our kids are catered for, but also our retirement's catered for. We started a new business project that we're working on that's doing really, really well up here in the DFW area. And I'm actually part of spearheading the growth throughout the Texas area. And quite frankly, Elizabeth, I'd like you to take a look at what I'm doing for 2 main reasons. Number one, I'd like you to know what I'm doing. Because, again, if I'm spearheading growth, the more people who know about it, the better. And I'd certainly love any introductions should they be relevant. But secondly, Elizabeth, I'd like you to take a look at this business. Now, do you know any pain she's got or any why she may have, Paul?
Yeah, I think her husband works some pretty bad hours. I know that their weekends are very valuable to them, and he can't get more than 2 off per month. And I'm sure she'd love to be able to change that.
So that may be what you do is, in a hurry, you state your why about the kids and your retirement, and you want to talk, it's growing really well. You start a new business project for you. It's growing really well in the DFW area, and you're spearheading a lot of the growth throughout the Texas region. And I'd like you to take a look at what I'm doing for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'd really appreciate you knowing about the business and making any introductions that are relevant. But secondly, Elizabeth, I know your husband works some hours that are just, that cannot be pleasant for him. And this may be, I don't know, but this may be something that you would like to do as a plan B alongside what you're currently doing. I don't know if it's going to be your cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine. But Elizabeth, I've never led you astray before. But what's a good time for you and your husband to be by a computer and then go to close it down? I like that approach. That feels very comfortable to me. How does that feel for you, Paul?
Well, the only exception to that I would make is she's heard of Ambit Energy. She knows that I'm doing Ambit. So when I go to her with this, she's going to know I want to talk to her about Ambit Energy. Okay. She's a good enough friend. I think she'll be willing to sit down and listen to me about it.
Okay, in which case, let's word it slightly differently. Again, you don't necessarily need to be in a hurry, but I still think out of just habit, it's a good idea for every single invite to be in a hurry so you don't forget, because there's nothing worse than forgetting and getting dragged into a presentation. So still be in a hurry. Still, as you know, I started, again, talk about your why, and you started the business project, Ambit Energy. It's going really, really well. And since we last spoke, we've actually promoted twice throughout the business, and it's working really well for me. And what it's going to do for me is put all 5 of my kids through college and pay for the weddings that are coming up. I'm actually helping spearhead the growth in the Texas area for the company, and I'd like you to take a look for a couple of reasons. As you know, I'm doing the business anyway. I'd like you to take a look because I'd like you to help me with any introductions and stuff down in the area where you are. But secondly, bearing in mind the hours that your husband's working, and bearing in mind this is working so well for me and my wife and the family, I just think you should maybe take a look at what we're doing and how well it's working for us. Elizabeth, again, it may or may not be your thing, and my friendship with you is much more important than any business. But when would be a good time for you and your husband to be on the phone so you can kind of take a look at what I'm doing? And again, even if it's not your cup of tea, you can certainly make some introductions for me. Would that be a better type approach?
Yes. Yes, that's very
Good
much
answer.
the sort of thing I want to do. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So again, make sure, I know you're skilled in this, Paul, but remember everything you do gets duplicated. So please make sure you write the invites down not as a script. Some people use it as script, and that's fine, but it stops people. Again, I know you are professional. I know you don't get nervous and too wordy. But for those of you who can get a little nervous and a little too chatty, it's very easy to start wandering off in all sorts of directions. So make sure once you've decided on an invite that you get it written down and there as a script in front of you. So it's going to help you out there, and make sure you're intentional in setting the time. All right, we've got time for one more invite.
And let me just say, actually, getting too chatty is a risk for me. And so it's good for me to have notes. I can read off the script and sound natural, but if I at least have bullet points, then I know when I've covered them all and I know to shut up.
Yeah. And I know I can get wordy. And sometimes, when I'm doing this call and I'm doing an invite, Michelle will say to me afterwards, hey, that invite for such and such, that took too long. And I'm like, I'm right. I know. I know, absolutely know. So I'll go back and I'll listen to the recording and I would shrink it down to the right invite and making it right. As we're making it up on the call, obviously, we can be a little bit more wordy, but that's why it's so important to write it down, because if you've written it down, you've thought about it. All right, so let's do one more invite for Paul, because let's get one more. And the other invites we'll do on the accountability calls. So for those of you who are listening in, who want to see how we do the other invites, make sure you listen to the other accountability calls that are recorded on the AEC Writers Facebook page. Okay, so let's talk about Paul.
So Paul is about my age, I think, goes to my church. I've talked to him a little about Ambit from the perspective of being a customer. He shared one of his electric bills with me. I've told him I can save him some money, though I haven't been able to get past that point. I haven't been able to make an appointment with him. But I very much want to show him the business opportunity as well, and I've barely mentioned that.
Do you know if he's got any pain at all?
I don't know, except that he seems to travel quite a bit.
Is he married?
I'm sure he is.
Kids?
Probably grown, but I don't know.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on how to approach this guy?
The trick seems to be to get him on the phone, and then to get him to commit to a time. He's one of those people that will tell you when he can't make it, but it won't tell you when he can. And so if I go to him and say, can you do Wednesday? He said, no, I'm out of town all next week. Okay. Can you do Saturday? No, I've got to do something else. When can you meet me? And so I got to, getting that part is just like pulling teeth.
Yeah, and as intentional as one can be, if someone's really, really difficult to tie down, they're really difficult to tie down. And what I would say with this is, let's go for a good invite, which we'll put together in a second. But if he continues to be hard to tie down, then we'll purge him. Because if we constantly are trying to find a time for this guy, then he's going to get in the way of any fresh names coming down for a clean plate the next week, which is the purpose of the Purge Call, which is why it's called the Purge Call. Once we've done these 10 names for the week, we're going to purge those names. They're either going to be plugged into the system, they're going to be validated because they're a maybe, or if they're a no, we're going to purge them for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whichever is relevant. But if someone's constantly going to be avoiding you, then we're not going to waste time. Keep trying to tie him down. That being said, if you're seeing him at church all the time, then there may be an opportunity to do it face to face.
That's rarely a good time. He's usually the usher, and so I'm part of a crowd that he's seeing all at the same time. I think it's much better to talk businesses to get him on the phone. And also, I don't want to let another week go by.
I hear you. So based upon that, what do you think? What kind of approach do you think you'd like to take with that?
I need to call him. But the part of it is I already have the hook on him because I've already explained to him that I can save him a great deal of money on his electric bill. Mm-hmm. And so he understands that part and understands that we want to get together to talk about that. So I think once I can get him nailed down to that, I can tell him, look, and also there's an income opportunity attached to this, and I'd very much like to show you that at the same time.
Okay, good. So you're going to invite him on the customer side first.
Exactly.
And then at that time, then make him aware that there's another. That's a great idea. I would agree with that. If he already knows that you're going to talk about being a customer, then anything else would be a distraction. So, yeah, I would. It's going to be all about posturing, and it's going to be look. So here's what I would do if it was someone like him. I'd say, hey, Paul, I've been meaning to get hold of you. Listen, I know you've got a lot going on. We've got to get together to have a look at your electricity bill, see if we can save you some money or not. But you're really difficult to tie down. So what's the best time? How would you ask you to tie time down? When's going to be a good time for you? If he was in your position, how would you tie him down? Because if he's constantly trying to, you've got to find out if he's genuinely trying to avoid you. Sorry, if he genuinely wants to see you and is busy, or he's trying to avoid you. And so I would just go ahead. Sorry,
I'm pretty sure it's the former.
Right. So he's just super busy. So I would say, Paul, listen, you're super busy. I want to get together with you. What's a good section of time for us to meet? Now, I don't usually like to leave it up to them. I usually like to say, hey, I've got this time or this time or this time to be intentional. But when someone's so busy, say, look, over the next 2 weeks, when do you have a window when you and I can get together? Right. So rather than saying, can you meet Wednesday? No. Can you meet Thursday? No. Can you meet? No. You tell me when a good window is for you. And so, but it's going to be all about posturing, and you do that brilliantly. And it's going to be in your posture. Let's get this done. Let's get it pushed to one side. I'm either going to save you money or I'm not, but I definitely want to get together with you to show you this. When's a good time for you to be able to spend half an hour with me? And leave it in his court.
Exactly.
So that's what I would do, and it's going to be all about posture with him.
Let me just say, the purge portion of your system is one of my favorite things, because I do have the tendency to get tied up with one or two or three prospects going round and round and round, and I stop inviting, and suddenly everything is focused on getting these people to come in for a landing. And when they all say no on the same day, that's a bad day, and I don't have anything left. And so I love that purge, 4 calls and just cut them off. That's great.
Yeah, and they're only cut off for a couple of months. It's not the cut off and gone. The only people I actually strike off my list are people I just don't like. If they're just really not nice people or a bad attitude, then I'll cut them off my list. But anybody else, either who says no to the business, they're really saying not yet. Anybody else is only purged for 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months, depending on the circumstance. So I would, if he's busy at church and he's an usher, then you can be in a hurry and say, look, and then I would just close him down. Say, listen, we've still got to get together on your bill. When's going to be? You tell me when a good time is over the next couple of weeks, and posture and tie him down and see what you can do. And once it's got to 4 times, purge him, and we'll be talking to him again in 2 months.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Well, we're at 8:58. I'm not going to have to feed anybody off onto the national call. There is no national call tonight. They're obviously not as hardworking as we are. So another pat on your back for us, because that's how hard we're working. Paul, thanks for getting on the call. We'll do the rest of the invites on the accountability calls during the week, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, Richard. And let me just say, I think it's wonderful that we're doing this tonight, because it's coming on the end of the year, and it does get harder towards the holidays to get people to think about their electric bill, their gas bill. And this is not a week we can spare. People need to be working this week. This is the best remaining week in the year to work our Ambit businesses.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree more. Again, a lot of people think, around the holiday times, nobody starts anything. No one's going to start at Thanksgiving. No one's going to start at Christmas. Well, I'm sorry. I did. I started right in the middle of December. And whoever brought me on is now making 4 figures a month because I started the business. So do not think you cannot bring people on into your business during this particular time. So well said, Paul. Thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to let you go if that's okay, Paul. I really appreciate you getting on tonight, and obviously we'll have to arrange a time for an accountability call. And if you wouldn't mind, if you could make sure you're available for next Sunday so we can purge your list.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, my friend, and I will speak to you tomorrow. For those of you who are still on the call, there is no national call tonight again, so I can borrow you for another 30 seconds as I close the call out. Again, thank you for getting on the call. Please do take heed to what Paul said. This is just as good a time as any time in the year. If someone's looking, someone's looking. It doesn't matter whether it's March, July or August when everybody thinks everyone's on vacation, or in the middle of Thanksgiving and Christmas when everybody thinks no one's thinking about anything but turkey. That's just not true. So please work your businesses hard in this last quarter of the year. We've got a lot happening in 2017 as we lead up towards simulcast. So again, work hard during this week. And I say hard, remember it's only a couple of calls a day and an accountability call. So it's on average about 30 to 60 minutes a day. It's just we're making sure that we actually do it. So again, thank you very much, guys. Make sure you have your top 10 invites all done for the week. Make sure you put them in your calendar, and let's have a great week. Thank you very much again for getting on this call. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And I will see you all next Sunday, but keep your eyes open for the recorded accountability calls during the week. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all very soon. Thanks now. Bye-bye.